Hey guys, how's it going? Matt from Foulball Productions here. Thank you so much for joining me today. Hope that you're doing well because I'm doing phenomenally. Thank you very much. This is the 96th episode of the MFer Podcast, and I thank you very much for spending the time with me. Once again, I am on the road. This is a pre-recorded episode that's coming out for y'all, but you know, I brought you content. Can't complain. But I have a guest today. Is a YouTuber, an up-and-coming YouTuber that I really I admire. I like his work a lot. I think he's really insightful, interesting guy. I'd like to introduce to you all Tom Foe.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Matt. It's a pleasure to be on here on the MFer Podcast and getting to talk with you and have this conversation. I've been so excited.
Fuck yeah, dude. Yeah, no, me too, man. I'm a fan. I found your videos, so I just learned about like the Gen Z right, and I find it absolutely fascinating. So I first came across a guy that you covered, the Right Wing Coalition. You know that guy, right?
Yeah, he's a good guy.
He's a good guy. Content's really good too. I like his stuff a lot. And I found his video about Jordan Peterson actually, and I was like, oh, this is a really interesting take. It was so vivid and detailed and thorough, and you could feel the betrayal. And I was like, oh, that's a really, really interesting video. And then I guess, I don't know, maybe being a fan of his, your stuff just started popping up in my algorithm, and I watched your I don't care about the group chat leak video, and I thought that was really interesting.
Oh, yeah, I feel like that was the video that kind of like popped up for most people. But Right Wing Coalition, he's definitely a good guy. We talk a lot, and he like actually writes really well, and his perspective on things, it's just, I don't think anybody can beat it. Like, really, I think he's gonna be one of the more prominent Gen Z figures, and he's actually fixing to write a book too, so
I heard
that's gonna
that
come out in April. Yeah,
he mentioned that in his video. I was like, wow, man, like really on his ascension. And I think that's great, dude. Like, and he's very impressive. He's very consistent. You're very consistent too. You put out a lot of content, man. Your uploads, it's like very regular. I can barely keep up.
Yeah, I mean, I try, but I mean, he'll like write scripts because he's a very good writer. I just yell, and I'm trying to get better at like actually just kind of talking off the cuff and stuff. So I'm trying to focus more on becoming a better orator and stuff. So,
well, there's a video. Yeah. I noticed there was a video. Maybe not. I was listening to your video today about Candace and Ian Carroll, but there was a video. I don't know, it was like 1 or 2 ago where it was very produced. You know, you did have like a video clip intro, and it was very like framed. I felt like you're starting to dabble with that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've done that a few times. I've written scripts twice for 2 different videos, and the reason why I don't do it all the time is specifically because, I mean, I can write a script and make myself sound different than what I am. And I'm not trying to kind of come off unauthentic. I'm trying to just become a better speaker in general. So that's why I'm not trying to do that as much. But with like the video intros, I'll do that for certain topics because I feel like it kind of sets up the tone for what we're going to talk about, what I'm going to discuss. But I don't do it all the time because I don't think it's necessary to do all the time. But I definitely have dabbled with intros. They work really well. Like, people like them.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely have a style to your own. I'm actually kind of envious of it, you know, because I look at your thing and I'm like, man, he just goes. He just does it. He doesn't care, and people are into it. And it's like, that's badass. I'm so, like, neurotic, and I'm like, I got to write the script, and the first 30 seconds got to have a good hook, and it's just, like, overthink it and sometimes just abandon it because I'm, like, so anxious, you know. But I like that you're just like, yeah, you just pop off. And I find your thoughts are really salient, you know. So that video about the fuck Hitler society, you know, that's what it ended up turning into. I thought that was so insightful, you know. Like I said, a lot of these ideas, a lot of these voices from the Gen Z right, I'm finding extremely compelling because they're very grounded and they're very principled and kind of rich and consistent. And I really gravitate towards that. And you know, I admire how much, you know, you guys just don't fuck around. You know, there's no like, oh, like kind of well constructed and we have to consider. No, you just say what you think and what you advocate for, and it's just like, it's so refreshing. I fucking love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's because, you know, we're all like living in this society, literally, that it's the opposite of that. Like, every politician besides Trump for like the longest time, like it's always been that teachers, parents, jobs, everything on TV. It's always so safe, and it's just all bullshit. Like everyone knows it's fake.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's the best way to kind of cut through all that is just to be honest. And I mean, like that's what all of these people who are doing this do. Like Jimmy Talks, Right Wing Coalition. We just say what we want to say, and we don't care if it offends somebody. And it's not because we're trying to go out of our way to offend people. It's just that doesn't matter anymore. Like it's all fake. Yeah. It doesn't get us anywhere other than where we are currently, and nobody wants to be here anyways.
Well, and it makes you like very self-conscious about the way you talk about things. Like if you're holding those values, those sort of like liberal world order values in your head, and then you're trying not to step on any kind of social landmines as you're trying to express yourself and trying to get out your points, and it's like you cuck yourself a little bit. You do something to your own mentality, your own like agency and your own kind of self-respect. I think when you embody that sort of, it's like a cap on top of the way you think. And I found myself, so I did a video on Nick Fuentes about maybe a month or two ago, and because I didn't know anything about Nick really, I just heard about him. He popped up during the Kanye thing. He was on Alex Jones. But I just knew him as a figure. Like, if you asked me where could I catch Nick's show, I'd be like, I don't even know he has a show. I have no idea where you'd watch it, Maybe I'd guess Rumble. But I just didn't know anything about him, really, other than he was like this dark figure, from the alt-right. Excuse me, man. I'm coming off a cold.
Nah, I feel that.
But I just, so I found, him, and I found like the way that he spoke about things in his interviews. I thought it was like, this guy's not the devil at all. This guy's smart, and he's compassionate, and he has like principles. It's like, yeah, they might be controversial to the standard normie, but the ideas in them are not horrific at all. I found myself just sort of being like, wow. And then furthermore, I found myself like reflecting on the things, like it was something that he said, I think, in the interview with Dave Smith about how much, it's like, oh, you say these things, these words, and that's like the worst thing. And meanwhile, we have someone like Randy Fine is like literally cheering on the death of Palestinian kids. And you're like, which one's worse? And it's like, yeah, wow. I don't know why my brain didn't connect that dot rationally, but it's like, yeah, that's way, way, way worse. But we've been like programmed to believe the worst thing you can do is like, step on one of those social landmines.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's and a lot of his stuff, if you like look more into like his backstory, he started kind of getting into that way of thought because of people like Pat Buchanan. And Pat Buchanan, I'm sure you might know who he is. He's the guy who like helped Nixon and Reagan and all that. Yeah. He wrote like a bunch of different books, and I think in 2012 he did an interview tour for his book. It's called like Suicide of a Superpower. And it's a crazy good book because this dude was like pointing out shit that nobody else was talking about like decades ago with immigration, like social dynamics. And in the interview, he talks about like the labels. Like racist, sexist, homophobic. And there's a quote he has that I don't think I'm ever going to forget for as long as I live. And he said, like, being called racist, sexist, homophobic, all of these words are synonyms for heretic. And that's all this is we have, like, the reason why when you get told that being a racist is so evil, but those same people are going to celebrate kids dying in another country is because we have, like, a political religion.
Yes, we
and
do.
There are things that go against that religion, and it's essentially the establishment that's in place. And so when you violate that, you become a heretic. They're going to throw whatever they can at you. And that's why we kind of found that out with Trump. What did they do in 2016? Oh, he said grab her by a pussy. He's a sexist. He's a racist. He's a horrible man. And then he's Hitler. And then now he's working with the Russians. And then now he's doing all this. And it was just never ending. And it was, you kind of found out, it's like, all right, this doesn't actually mean anything.
Right.
They'll say that about anybody. And that's kind of like where it stems from. So the idea.
It's interesting because I think like So I got into YouTube kind of from like a media analysis angle. You know, I was an actor for about 15 years and I was living in LA, and when the pandemic hit, so I didn't really have much else to do. So I started this YouTube channel, and I was a big fan of Nerdrotic, like Gary. You know, on that channel.
Yeah.
And I really liked what he did, and he was encouraging people to, get into it. And so I did. I had free time. Why not? And so I got into it from that angle, and that was the thing that was always like an axiom with them, because they were the first people who were out there saying The Last Jedi sucks, and Miss Marvel's woke and whatever, like that when that really had weight and that was controversial, and they would get slammed with racist and sexist and homophobic all the time, and they kind of shortened it to like the istophobe, and that encapsulates everybody, who doesn't like this gay shit. And so then you realize it just became a word that meant nothing. You say it so many times, it's like it just doesn't matter. And that's why I thought it was so funny, when the kind of rise of real nationalism in this country and sort of a rejection of Israel's influence, where they tried to go with woke right and anti-Semitism, as if that would work, as if after all the years of being called a racist and a bigot and a transphobe, what that has all just been reduced to dust. Suddenly you think this one will work? It'll work this time? I don't understand. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, because that's the playbook they've had for so many decades.
Yeah.
That's the one thing they've used. There's documentaries where there's people that give alternate opinions on World War II and different things that have happened around there, and you'll hear people talk about on there. It's they'll just call you an anti-Semite, but an anti-Semite is anybody who just doesn't agree with Israel.
Yeah,
and so it's just used as a way to silence you. And for a long time, they could just censor you and kind of shun you from the media, from TV, from the newspapers, and you wouldn't have a voice.
But
Buchanan. Yeah, exactly. And
straight
then
up just canceled, when there was no alternative media, when there was no other avenue, it was just the radio, the paper, and the TV, and that was it.
Mm-hmm. And that's why he got so much into writing books, is because that was his only avenue. And then still then, people would disavow him and would constantly attack him and stuff. You can even watch videos of this dude. He's in his 80s or 90s now, but back in his 80s, he's doing press tours for his book, and people are still pushing him on during the Q&A sections on his thoughts on Israel and stuff. And it's crazy, but it's definitely, if you watched the interview Nick did with Piers Morgan, where they talk about the Holocaust, and it's definitely a religion.
Me mom died in the Holly.
Me mom, me dad, Stalin.
I can't stop. His mom didn't even die in the Holly. Do you know that?
Well, yeah, they both survived or some shit.
I'm did anyone die in this fucking thing? It's you throw a rock, you hit 3 Holocaust survivors. It's just they're everywhere, man. There was one that got killed at Bondi Beach. I was just how are there so many? Whatever. But it just feels it's kind of a high number.
It is crazy, dude. And the number, we're finding out every day, it's just more and more.
It goes up and up and up, and you're
it's 100 million.
Did they get anybody?
Yeah, and I mean, in regards to all that stuff, I kind of feel I have, a lot of groypers, they kind of have, the same opinion on this. It's fun to, talk about it, and it's fun to say, all the same talking points, but really, at the end of the day, we don't care. I don't give a shit.
I think that's the point, and I think that's the thing that people me mom died in the Holly guy and Piers, is that it's not really about, them saying it didn't happen is irrelevant to the historical facts. It's just to fuck with the orthodoxy of it, like you said, the religion, the fact that you're a heretic. It's just we don't give a shit. If anything, it's we should be getting pats on the back because this is the country that liberated the concentration camps, right? Why the hell do we need reminders about the Holocaust? We're the ones who fucking stopped it. My grandfather, you know what I mean? Was there in Europe, so what are you talking about? Why do we need this? And that's because the truth is, it's not about that. It's about political power and using your own guilt and empathy as a weapon against you.
Yeah, no, completely. And I think for most younger people, and I would say a lot of millennials too, I feel like at this point we're kind of discovering that like that lid is blown off. Pandora's box has been open when it comes to a lot of this stuff, and you can't really close it again.
Well, I wanna get into that because I have some like questions about just like kind of your red pill journey. Tell me about your red pill journey, Tom. But I want to get into that and to kind of talk about mine a little. But what you were talking about with the orthodoxy and all that, and this sort of the religion. Well, this I just found yesterday. I was going to talk about it on my show and I didn't get to it, but it was essentially like. This is in Virginia. So, statue of black teen who fought segregation replaces Robert E. Lee at U.S. Capitol. I mean, when they say that, like, they replaced, George Washington with Martin Luther King, they're not kidding.
What the fuck?
These are the new heroes. Like, these are the new deities, the new symbols, the new, gods, like the people who started our country. It's like, this is the most important thing. And I think that's why... I can't really speak to your generation as much because I don't really know the Zoomers all that well. I've had some overlap with them. I used to work in food service, and I would, a lot of kids were like in their 20s, so I got to know them a little bit. But I will say that for the millennials, as my generation, is that was kind of the way our education was structured, and I imagine yours was similar, where like the most righteous and noble thing you could do would be to like fight against oppression, would be to fight against racism, something like that. And I think that's why, my generation is just a bunch of insufferable activists, especially the women, because they took all that to heart. And that was the core of our education, was stuff like this, where it's like, whatever about the South and the Civil War, it's just that like, it's a fighting segregation that's the most important, that's the highest value we worship in this country.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, this type of shit was pushed too. It was that mixed with like also the bashing of white people. Like, white people are evil. Yeah. Like, there was a big like push for that. But like this stuff, it's like, dude, I doubt most people my age even know who this chick is.
I didn't know who she was. The first time I ever heard of her.
It's like Barbara Rose John. Like, I'm sure, she led a walkout in the press. It's like, all right, good for her, cool. Yeah. But it's like, dude, she wasn't a general. Like, she didn't. And this stuff.
And it's like, it's not to say that, in 1951, a 16-year-old girl leading a walkout. That's pretty brave. It's pretty badass. I respect that. But does she need a statue?
I mean, to them, yes, she does. Every single one of them needs a statue. And
But it's basically what that's saying is that the most important events that happened in our country, were fighting racism. It was like everything was broken until that happened. It's like, why not put George Washington up there or fucking Alexander Hamilton or something? Like, why not put, like one of our founding fathers? It's like, it's got to be some chick from the 50s that no one's ever heard of. And who knows? It's probably like that Tulsa situation where it's like, there was a massacre. And then you look into it and you're like, nah, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. And then they make a dramatization and it looks like D-Day. Yeah, it's like, bro, it's like, get the fuck out of here. It's like, I feel like at this point that stuff doesn't really work anymore, especially for like younger people.
Yeah.
At this point, the people who buy into that shit, especially after all the fallout from Black Lives Matters with them just kind of stealing money and using it to buy like houses and shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like at this point, the people who believe that stuff, they're always going to believe it. And they want to believe it. It has to be true because that's their whole whole identity. Like, but definitely like Hollywood pushing the idea that like the greatest thing you could be is anti-racist. Like, you'll watch a movie and the villain will kill like millions of people and there'll be a scene where he's like, well, at least I'm not racist.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah.
And it's
something
like, bro,
like that. Yeah. It's
so stupid. And I think they overplayed their hand with all of this, and I think they're going to continue to do that, but it's not going to work. Like, I guarantee you, even like a lot of black kids that are Gen Z don't even like this shit. Like,
yeah, I wonder. I don't know. I mean, like the kids that I knew, the girls were really activisty, but this was a few years ago, so it's hard for me to say what it's like now because so much has changed, especially when it comes to the perception of Israel, and that, I mean. I've been saying this for a while. It's the only thing in this country the left and right agree on is fuck Israel.
Yeah, I mean, that's where like our biggest chance of kind of like unity and bipartisanship is going to kind of come from is, who is supporting Israel, really.
Yeah.
Now, there's going to be a difference on what America First means. Some people, they don't really like that. Some people, they want us to be more of like a open border. The liberals, they'll be like, we got to let in all the immigrants and we got to, not have borders. Like that shit, obviously, we're not going to agree on, and that's going to be the problems we're going to have. But the Israel stuff, which is arguably the most, I would say, like the biggest threat. Yeah, because, I mean, a lot of people talk about like Islam right now or Indians. And I even talk about Indians a lot, and they'll be like, oh, they're going to come here and they're going to reproduce and take over our country. And it's like, well, we have, like, Israel has already done that, and it's, so that is the most major threat to our future, because they're the ones that are constantly pushing for things that kind of destroy our society.
It sure seems like that. I mean, it's, there was some I guess Congress today passed the making it like a felony to do any kind of like genital mutilation or puberty blockers on like a minor. Did you see
that's
that?
Based.
Based. Yeah, totally based. And then there was some dude, I saw some congressman, I think from San Francisco, named Scott Wiener, and he was like, this is horrible and blah, 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 blah. Early life Jewish. And I was just, I tweeted, I was like, it's just, it's regular as clockwork. It's like, I don't want to create a prejudice in my head, but if it's that consistent, like, what do you want me to do with this information? Like, not acknowledge it because it's rude?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, a lot of that stuff comes from Jewish authors to begin with.
Yeah,
like originated.
There's a meme going around that's just like all the white hate, white people, and like all the like white people are bad books, and they're all written by Jews, and you're just like, okay. I mean, once again, I'm sorry, but this is consistent. It's like
it's a pattern.
Yeah,
it's pattern recognition, and that's kind of a big thing with Western society in general. Is it's constantly beating you over the head, telling you not to recognize patterns. Yeah. Don't recognize that black people make up 13% of the population and do 50+% of the violent crimes. Don't recognize that,
it's guns.
It's guns, and it's
like, it's not guns. Like Piers Morgan was trying to say that. I'm like, well, then you would have to find a proportionate amount of gun crime in all communities in the United States, and you simply don't. And there's more guns in the whites in the rural parts of this country. So your logic dictates that there should be constant gun crime in these communities, and there isn't. So let's stop about the guns. It's not the guns.
Yeah, I mean, Piers is always, like, you can go back and you can watch, like, his older interviews with, like, Alex Jones, where Alex is, like, yelling at him.
I don't think I ever saw that.
That's like a classic one. That's like from probably the early 2000s. Alex starts yelling at him, and he's like, if you try to take our guns, 1776 will commence again. And so Piers has always been like anti-guns. Like he's he's
British. They have that kind of snobbery about it. And that's why he kept trying to bring up that thing with Nick about the school shootings, like trying to find this one little specific, like statistic, this aberration, where you could find that perhaps percentage-wise there were more white people. It wasn't even true, but it was like the perception is that. It's just like, dude, it's not. That doesn't matter, man. I mean, it's not that those crimes don't matter, but it's like this is you're and then the thing is they always do is they'll talk about that, right? And then they'll use the gun crime statistics, the general gun crime statistics, to back up why that was bad. And you're like, those two things are not correlated, dude. They're not the same.
Yeah, it's the traditional tabloid journalists fluff that they've been using for so long. And it's really a generational divide.
And I look, it's something that I'm coming to like awake from. And, and like there's a dude in my chat all the time. This guy's Sencha Dildo, and he used to always say, I know, he would always kind of correct me about like the way American politics is. It's like conservative and liberal are just two sides of the same coin in this country. It's like it's all part of like Lockean liberalism at the end of the day. And I think I had like trouble kind of like really wrestling with that or divorcing the two. But I've really come to realize that is 100% true, and that there's just kind of like liberal like assumptions that so much of our political thought is just built on that, yeah, I mean, it all kind of comes down. It's like that Michael Malice saying, or the quote where he says, conservatives are just progressives driving the speed limit. And you're like, that's exactly what this is. In fact, I found a quote from a dude from like 1870 saying like the same shit.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense because look at the way things have changed. Like conservatives today compared to where they were 20 years ago, they're very much like a 90s liberal. That's like the average conservative. And it's kind of funny because the whole point of being a conservative is you're supposed to conserve traditions and the Constitution. And yet they're constantly moving just like everybody else. And you could say, well, that's because of the times or, just in general, like people evolve and change. But that doesn't mean it's good. It doesn't mean it's a good thing. And if it's
there's
all
certain things that can be good, but it's like they need to just be objectively assessed. I think a lot of times people just sort of we've progressed, therefore good, and it's like not necessarily. It's like the transgender thing. I think is the most obvious example because everyone in the country was like, whoa. Whoa, what's going on? This is crazy. Even like average normal people, like my mom, who's like a boomer lib, right? And she was like, this is crazy. This is like, so it's just based on the concept of progress does not mean good necessarily. It's like they need to be assessed and reassessed and, like the idea of welfare, right? It's like the boomers, like they was like, oh, okay, anti-racism, blah, blah. And it's like, well, okay, it's decimated the black community, so it didn't work. So let's stop doing it.
Yeah, no, that's played a huge role in completely destroying their communities. And I have a lot of sympathy for the black community because of stuff like that. Because that's played a big role in the reason why they don't have fathers.
Yeah.
It's because
incentivized by the state.
It's completely like black women, they divorce their husbands more than any other group of women in America. And women,
wow, I didn't know that.
They divorce, more than men do from marriage. So I think the biggest group is black women, and then white women are right behind that.
Really?
But it's because, they get incentivized to be single moms. The government will take care of them. Yep. And I mean, I'm not going to name names, but I have a personal friend who, and he's not black, he's white. And his wife now, they're white, and they got pregnant before they were married. And they were going through the motions, and they were like, well, we want to get married before we have a kid. And she was going through all the systems, and she found out that, like, if they would have gotten married before she had the kid, it would have costed them so much money.
Really?
So she had the kid technically as a single mom, and they were living together, and the state knew they were living together, and they still treated it like she was a single mother, and they didn't charge her anything for the hospital visit. They gave her all this stuff. Like it was crazy. And so it's like, dude, if that's what they're doing for white people, I can't even imagine what they're doing for the black communities. It's
I never
just
even
straight
thought
up
about the healthcare cost.
It's straight up like you would be stupid if you didn't have a lot of money, and if you were actually if this was a moral dilemma for you because you want to get married, and you're gonna put yourself like $10,000 to like $30,000 in debt for medical bills. Just for this pregnancy to have a kid, it's so fucked up.
Wow, I never thought about the healthcare aspect of it, especially as expensive as healthcare and childcare is.
You get free childcare too.
Yeah, like my sister has two kids, and it's expensive. It's like it's a very expensive endeavor, and it's I never even thought about that part of it. Yeah, it's like you'd be stupid to get married if it's going to cost you another $10,000.
Mm-hmm. And they knew they were together and they lived together. It's just like they couldn't be married.
How do you look at something like that and not conclude that the state wants less like wedlock?
I think you have to be retarded, honestly. Right. There's no way you can look at all these things and look at the numbers and the statistics and just talk to like your neighbors that go through the same things and just be like, well, this is good. It's like, no, it's engineered, it's social engineering to destroy the family, not just in black communities, in all communities, and it worked.
Yeah.
Families are destroyed here.
Dude, there was a statistic that you brought up that I was like, motherfucker, I did not know that. And it was that a third of Gen Z was aborted.
Oh yeah, that shit was pissed me off, bro. It was insane.
That's insane, dude. I did not know that. I'd never heard that before. And you know, the abortion debate is very contentious, you know, at times, and it's still like it's. You know, I understand the arguments. I feel like it's one of the few political discussions that, like, I at least get, you know, the most charitable interpretation of the left's reasons, even if I disagree. I can understand their reasoning. But when you hear a statistic like that, you got to be like, never mind, we're done. It's over.
Yeah, and it's going to be more for Gen Z. Like,
I bet. The
amount of, like, people I know that have had abortions with Gen Z, it's pretty crazy. And I mean, that's just something that kind of black pills you because
that's a dark statistic.
This is like you wouldn't even think of America. Like when you think of America, when you talk to like progressive liberals who live here and they talk to somebody from like the UK or a UK person starts talking about healthcare here, they'll be like, "Oh, well, at least we have abortion in my country. At least we have women's rights to healthcare." And it's like we barely have that according to them, and it's still 30%. Of my generation's dead. Like they don't even get a chance at life.
Yeah, that's I mean, that's just, it's one of those things where you're just like, wow. And then you combine that with the fact that, you know, we have a demographic crisis in this country and in the West in general. And it's just like, well, maybe we should stop killing all the babies and see how that works out. You know, it's like these people, there was a story I was talking about on my show yesterday. The Bondi Beach shooting, and there was some New Zealand or Australia like PM or MP, I mean, and he was talking about you know how you know we've clamped down on anti-Semitism, and we've banned the Hitler salute, and we, you know, blah 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 blah.
Do you feel like there needs to be, and should there be, a greater emphasis on hate speech from Muslim clerics in the western part of Sydney?
I think, as I said earlier, what we've done is criminalise more forms of hate speech, and you know we've criminalised the Nazi salute. Obviously, that's in its own context, but we need to be looking at all of this, and it is really important.
And it's just like these people will address everything other than the actual problem.
Yeah, because for them to do so, it goes against their whole narrative.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like where we're at, is the politicians for most of the West and, you know, kind of all over, they'll look at you, they can see you getting stabbed, they can see you getting robbed, they can see like the worst shit happening to you and your family, and if it goes against their own narrative to speak out against it, they're not going to do that.
Yeah. I mean, you see it happening in Britain on like at an insane level. You know, you'd think little girls getting raped would be the issue that everyone could kind of come together on and be like, no more, we're done. Okay, we made mistakes, but no more mistakes are getting made. Nope. No, they're gaslighting the whole country and to be like, no, it's not really happening, or, you know, it's not this or it's not that, or we'll coach them. It's just like, this is insanity. Like, what is happening? I still don't understand how, like, the entire country of Britain's just not in the street with torches.
Well, see, they have to be very careful because their government...
And they should be, yeah.
They like, you know, this is a government that they arrest their citizens for just making anti-vax posts.
Yeah.
That's something that's happened, like thousands of people. And when you talk to them about it, they'll be like, oh, it's only like 1,300 or 1,400 or
dude,
whatever. And it's like,
Europe
bro,
is so cooked.
Dude, it's like crazy. And I was listening to, I think it was Agent Academic. He's a pretty cool YouTuber. But he's from the UK, and I was listening to him this morning, actually, at work.
Okay.
And they talked about the gang rapes, and he'll say he's a liberal, but he's not. He's pretty conservative. That's why I like him. But even with him, you know, he talks about it, and he's like, yeah, that's like the one thing that everybody knows it's a problem, but people refuse to talk about it because it just makes them mad.
I believe it. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know how that doesn't just inspire pure rage in you. You know, it's the most vulnerable in the society are being, you know, it's just with the most horrific reality and just shattered life. You know, I was listening to Carl Benjamin talk about that just before this stream. It was some interview. I'm not sure, some British YouTuber, but he looked like he was like on the news. But anyway, talking about that exact thing. And it was like, it's just the kid's life will never be the same ever. It's like horrific trauma that she'll never recover from, really. And you just like, and this is the government, your government is advocating for this policy en masse, and clearly it's unpopular, and that doesn't matter. And you're like, what is happening? How is this the reality we live in?
Yeah, it's pretty like just creepy, man. It's especially for the UK, because you're right, the UK is just cooked on so many levels, because also you have a lot of the adults that are so brainwashed there, and when their kids start noticing things or start speaking.
My son is 22 and he's really radicalized. So I can't.
Radicalized?
What's your address? Concerned he's harming himself.
I'm not harming myself.
What's your concern with him in his room?
I'm a political commentator.
Really right wing. He's posting
Oh my
stuff
god.
online.
Yeah, there's a video where there's a guy who, he's a political commentator, kind of like me. He was a lot younger than me, but he had like his own show, and there's a video he did where his mom was like crying because he was still living at home, and she called the police, and she was like, my son's a Nazi, and he's saying all this rhetoric, and then his dad like goes into his room and starts like almost like trying to beat him up, and he's like, what the fuck happened to you? I raised you for 22 years and you're a monster.
Wow.
And his son's like, I just want to preserve our our traditions, our culture.
Yeah.
So I guess he might play into more of the edgier topics or whatever, but that's still your kid. And I think the reason why things are the way they are when it comes to children in the West is because we really don't value children at all. I would say like as like a whole, because that's why when it comes to abortions, you have an entire side that they don't care, they don't view it as life. Right. And then when it comes to just children like getting raped or whatever, they don't think about the consequences and what that does to the child's life and their mental state, because it doesn't really matter. Like they don't care. The only time they'll actually talk about a kid is when it's like some kid trying to transition and they can't get puberty blockers, and they're like, how could you deny a kid healthcare? We only
suddenly
use
it's
kids.
a sacred thing.
Yeah, we only use kids as like a way to one up each other. It's not something we actually give a shit about.
Well, it makes me think about, the boomers, because that's the generation that raised me. And it's like, I don't think they get a lot of shit, but I look at my own parents, and I don't think they were ill-intentioned. I don't think that they were, cruel people at all. But I do think that they just didn't take an interest in preservation of their country. And they just drank the Kool-Aid too deep, of the kumbaya John Lennon bullshit. And they didn't reassess their values. You could I can listen. I'll listen to them speak, and I can hear like conservatism, like trying to like slip in there, and they just they block it out. But they still there's like one little thing. Yeah, just when I see all these black dudes, just like drinking on the stoop, and I'm just like, keep going, finish that thought. You know what I mean? But it's like. It's like, they didn't take an interest in what we were being taught and how we were being formed and what our values were going to be. They really did outsource it to the state on such a complete level. It's just like, well, yeah, no wonder, man. Like, no wonder we were raised to hate our own country, hate our race, hate our religion. Now, I like, I know you like proclaim yourself as a Christian, and I do too, but for me, it's more cultural. I'm like, learning. I'm like on my religious journey. I've always believed in God, but it's like I am now really starting to like read the Bible and like absorb Christ's message. But it's a newer thing for me. My parents like were raised Catholic. They had wanted nothing to do with it, and so I wasn't really ever raised religious. And I even had like an aversion to it. When I would hear people kind of talk about it, I would find it kind of like whatever. I had that kind of like boomer lib response or millennial response to religion. And it's so interesting. You're just like, man, like, don't you think we should have gone through the motions if for no other reason than to preserve the culture? Like whether or not we agree or believe necessarily, but it's like, yeah, we were just, I don't know. We're all just programmed to think that's for stupid people,
Yeah. I mean, I kind of feel the same way when it comes to boomers. My parents are boomers.
Okay.
So, cause I'm like the youngest one out of my family. So I have a lot of older brothers that are millennials and stuff. But it's definitely different. Like, even growing up, my brothers would tell me it's like, it's just different for you, like the way you're being raised and stuff.
Yeah.
But with my parents, like my dad, like my grandpa, he was a preacher. He was a chaplain in the army. He was a colonel, actually.
Oh, no way.
And then once he got out of the army, he would preach at like different Baptist churches. And my dad was an ordained minister, and he would preach, and he did a lot of weddings. So I've been to a fuckload of weddings growing up, because he would be the guy marrying the bride and groom.
That's funny. I've actually been to a lot of weddings too, because I used to bartend events in LA. So I've been to, I'd estimate somewhere like in the realm of like 500 weddings.
Okay, you got me beat for sure. I'd have gone to that many, but
Well, it's like every weekend for years, you know what I mean? It was just like, it was years and years.
Good
every
money.
Weekend. Yeah, it was great. Oh, great. I loved weddings, man. They were the best, you know. Everyone's in a good mood, you know, like lots of like hot chicks that are just like, you know, they're all got wedding fever now, you know. It was great.
Oh yeah.
You know, you had like one busy hour, a cocktail hour, and the rest of it was just coasting, and it was like good vibes. And then every once in a while, you'd see some really good vows that would like get you choked up. You know, you'd like kind of like, well, you know, like you'd like feel it. But no, they were a blast. I loved weddings.
Yeah, no, they're fun, but like, yeah, my family pretty religious. My dad was, you know, being raised around that was kind of weird, because as like a kid, I would see like other kids' dads look up to my dad for spiritual advice or for just advice in general. So that's kind of like a weird thing, because he is a very like good leader, and I in a lot of ways I kind of wished I was more like him. In a lot of ways I'm not, but I went through a phase where I became pretty rebellious, and because my dad, in all honesty, he's just a good person. Like, he never did anything fucked up to me or my family, sacrificed a lot, was a man of God. Like, he really practiced what he preached, which I'm grateful for that as an example in my life. But how do you rebel against that when you're going through that phase? Well, you become like an atheist. And I did that, and I went pretty heavy into it. I would read like the God's Dead, Richard Dawkins books. Yeah, I would. Well, that too. I was super into all that. I'd watch like the debates, and then for like a good 6 or 7 years, I was an atheist, and then I became an agnostic. So I didn't become a Christian for real until like maybe a year or two ago.
Oh, okay.
But I grew up reading the Bible a lot, and a lot of what my dad preached was kind of instilled in me. So for me, I tried to get away from it, and you could say, oh, it's because he was raised and because he was brainwashed by his family or whatever. I mean, I still was like compelled to come back to it.
Yeah, no, my best friend, this dude Mike, he's actually done the show a few times. But he was raised extremely religious and kind of, I don't really know the details, but he kind of describes it as like a bit culty. You know, there's kind of like those sects of like ultra Christianity around the country, and I think my impression is that it was one of those. And he today is an atheist, but that's just because he's a stupid commie. No, but he's an atheist, but he still cherishes all the Christian values. Like he said, you know, like when he gets married and has kids, he's still going to raise his kids Christian. You know, even being right now an active atheist, like he, you know, is going to still raise them with those traditions because he believes it gave him like a real strong moral foundation and like kind of like a lot of character and all that. And I was like, that is, I mean, if that's not an endorsement of Christianity, I don't know what is.
Yeah. I've heard stuff like that before from people who kind of have like the same upbringing.
Yeah.
It's just because, I mean, we get a lot of our morals from Christianity. Anybody who says like, oh, well, morals are just like a universal thing, I think to certain degrees, people, like humans, have like a type of empathy for one another. I think that's a normal thing. People who don't have that, they usually turn out to be like psychopaths. But a lot of like your actual moral framework for this country especially does come from Christianity.
Oh, 100%. And the people that deny that are, you know, they're the type of people who, you know, history started in 1960. You know, it's like they don't recognize that like the things that you take for granted, the common morals and the common ethics and values that you have, that came from 2,000 years of Christian tradition and passed down through, you know, generations of family and was instilled in European culture and then transferred over here. This isn't just a universal system or universal values. And you can see it, you know, a great example is the right-wing coalition. I don't know his actual name, but that.
Oh yeah, nobody does.
Yeah. But he had a video where he was talking about working in tech with the Indians, and he talks about how much they are comfortable with nepotism. And I've heard this from other people too. But our culture, like, you know, American culture, especially like white American culture, we don't really have that. We maybe to a degree, you know, you help your friend, but it's not just if you know me, I will hook you up. It's like, no, like, you know, if I know you're an asset or you're valuable, I can maybe help you work here. And like everyone has nepotism to a degree, but we kind of also don't like it, right? When you hear about other people's nepotism, you're like, you know, it's like we have a whole term, nepo baby. That's like it's not a slur, but you know, like a negative connotation. But that culture just doesn't have that. They don't have that problem at all. Nepotism is like cherished and valued, and you're supposed to. And you're supposed to usher in all your friends and cousins and everyone in. And it's just like, well, do you see how the cultures are different? Do you see how the formation of the values that we had for thousands of years is different from their values of thousands of years? That we're not just atomized, universal individuals like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I saw on Alex Jones, it was either yesterday or a few days ago, they talked about like a lot of the H-1B visas and how 70% of them are coming from India. A majority of those come from like the same area of India, and India is fucking big.
Yeah.
And it's not because they're all extremely smart and, you know, they're just better at us, you know, at everything. It's because of nepotism. Like they'll get a job here at one of these companies and they'll start pressuring the companies to bring in people they know, and that's how they take over a lot of the companies here. And then with the legal migration with like green cards, that's another thing that they'll do. They, you know, with like hotels, they own like a majority of like motels in the country and gas stations in the country. There's actually like a little like mafia thing to that, which is kind of crazy.
Wow, I never thought about that.
With nepotism on its own, I don't think it's the worst thing ever. I think the idea that was pushed for Americans or like the West in general, it's mostly just white people. They were sold like this idea that you can't look out for your own. You have to, you know, give
Everyone's
everybody a fair
make
shot.
it on their own. You got to forge your own path.
And that's great. Like you said, with the morals, like that's a great system to live in, but it just doesn't work because nobody else is playing that game. You know, we're kind of the only ones doing it, and that's why we're getting destroyed in all these different areas. So I don't really get mad at the nepotism. I just don't like them being here because I know.
But I think about, okay, I hear what you're saying, and I know what your point is there, because I think about that sometimes, like with my dad, right? It's like, you know, I look at let's say the financial system. We know it's rigged. Like, we know it's designed to keep you paying high interest debt. Like, that is the point, because that's where they make so much money from. So, you knowing that, Dad, like, why didn't you get me, like, a credit card that I had no control over, just so that when I turned 18 or whatever, it's like, or, you know, I would have great credit, just to game the system a little bit, you know? Like, we should do stuff like that for our kids. We should do stuff like that for our friends, because it's like the system is designed to kind of, to take down the weak and take down the ignorant, really. And it's like, we should be working out for each other's interests like that. We should be more like clannish.
Yeah, I mean, it's because it all goes back to just being competitive.
Yeah.
You know, like we're kind of, when we think about being competitive or, you know, hiring people based off merit or like hard work, we think about it from an individual level, like an individualistic perspective. And that's not bad, but it's just, if we're the only ones playing that game, you're going to lose because you're not playing the same game as everybody else. So we could still have like some type of morality and still approach it from that perspective. Like parents having a credit card for their kids before they're 18, that's amazing. I wish my parents would have done that. My parents were afraid of credit because they were in debt for like a very long time. So they didn't understand credit. And then when I turned 18, I got a mentor who was he was pretty well off, and he gave me a lot of advice with credit and stuff, and I had to build it on my own. But once I did, it's like it's not that difficult to grasp, and it does work. But if my parents would have done that for me when I was younger, I would have had a way better head start.
That's the thing, yeah. It's like a head start. And, you do see that with, like, the ultra-wealthy. Like, I don't know your background. I'm pretty middle class. But it's like...
Oh, yeah, me too.
The ultra-wealthy, they don't fuck around with any of that. They don't give a shit. They help each other out. They have a system. They have, connections, and they exploit them for their family and for their friends, and they utilize that. And that's why they are where they are. The rest of us, we're all like, oh, the best man for the job. And it's just like, that's just not the reality of the world.
Yeah, I mean, well, because that's what... You kind of need us to believe these things for our society to be the way it is. You need a majority of people to not understand that. You need a majority of people to be okay with the concept that we're a melting pot and that's all America was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And it's like we're the ones that have to be sold all this bullshit, and we're the ones that have to buy it, but everybody else, they don't do it, and that's why they're beating us at everything. And it's like I'm not mad at them for beating us. I just feel like let's play on the same terms.
Right.
Let's get competitive. It's like fuck it. I feel like if we actually did it, it wouldn't be hostile. I think it'd be great. I think that's the way it has to go, and I think it will eventually evolve to be like that. At this point, most people are kind of waking up to that fact,
I think that is, I think, I was a trust the planner. You know what I mean? I was a big like MAGA guy this time around. You too? Okay. Like because do you listen to Nick Fuentes? I assume.
I do. Yeah. Now I'm a Groiper now.
Okay.
I've been listening to him kind of on off for a few years, but this year, with all the predictions he made from last year and him just being right, that's when, like, at the beginning of this year, I locked in and I was like, all right, he's not full of shit. I actually know he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But before that, I was kind of back and forth.
Because my brother-in-law is a groiper, and he was talking about, my sister's an idiot, she just says whatever he says, but like, she was saying that about, we're not voting for Trump because of the Jews, and I was like, what the fuck are you people talking about? That's insane. Like, you guys are nuts. Like, you're completely, that's a distraction, and that's, in my head, I was like, Nick's a troll, he's like a whatever, you know what I mean? He's, you can't ask for too much purity, whatever. I did, but I didn't. Like I said, I didn't have any real experience with the guy. I didn't know, and so I'm like one of those guys. And I'll be honest. I mean, I'm pretty disillusioned with the way things have gone. It's not what I hoped. And every time Nick makes his kind of predictions about the way things are going to go, I'm like, I don't want to believe him, but I do. I'm starting to be like, well, he can, until he's not right. It's like, well, I have no choice but to trust him. And he has like a wild, like, oracle level of insight at times where I'm just like, holy shit, that was mind-blowing. But what I wanted to say was the thing that I'm not black-pilled about is the level of current awareness that I think we have now as a society, whether it's because of X or YouTube or Rumble or a combination of all of it. We are so much more awake and savvy as to what's actually going on in the world and politically that I think, like, that we maintain that level of insight and that level of, like, cognizance of what's going on. I think we move forward a much stronger country.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's why, like, the whole point is America first is inevitable.
Yeah.
It's going to happen, like, eventually, whether it happens with our generation or the generation after, eventually you will get a group big enough that are nationalistic and they will put themselves and their families first, and that will take over. The only, like, debate you could have, which is kind of where it's like we're playing with fire, is can we do it in a way to where everything doesn't collapse?
Right.
Because if everything collapses, we're kind of at a point in time to where if America doesn't continue to be a superpower, it's not going to get the chance to do it again.
It's like a Ponzi scheme, really, and we need to keep feeding it. Yeah.
That's like kind of the weird game. So I talk to a lot of people who watch my videos, and they don't, they're accelerationists, and I guess I would say I'm kind of like that now, but for a different reason. They want things to end because they want civil war. They want, like, they're ready, like, they're tired and they're angry.
I really liked your video about that.
Yeah,
That
I got
was
a
a-
lot of pushback for
I
that
liked
one.
it a lot. Where you were like, "Are you really ready for this? Can you run? Can you shoot and run?" Like it was. I thought like you were really putting everyone to task, and I thought that was a good wake up call for a lot of people who think it's going to be like fucking Fallout, and they're going to be running like some
They're
tribe.
gonna be the vault dweller, but
Yeah.
yeah, because the first group that kind of found me on YouTube is the gun YouTubers,
Oh.
and I love them. They're great, and there's a lot of them that disagree with me on these things, but they're like the best supporters. Like they'll always show up, they'll always listen to the videos, they'll write comments, even if they disagree, they're still somewhat respectful. So I like them. Like you don't have to agree with me on everything, but I just don't want that to happen personally.
No, I don't either.
Because I'm not really prepared for that.
Plus,
I live
have
in a
like
big
weak
city.
people in my family. I have like my mom's old. You know what I mean? My sister has little kids.
Yeah.
You know, those are the people that suffer the worst and stuff like that. And it's like, and look, I'm 40. I'm not going to be young forever. In like 10 years, I'm 50. I'm not. That's not exactly a military fight age man.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. Because that's like a whole conversation. I just don't think anybody is really capable of predicting how messed up that type of situation would get in the 21st century. I don't think anybody has a concept of what that would look like.
I mean,
They
if
can
you
have an
look-
imagination, but I don't think it's like Red Dawn,
It's not. It's more like It's more like the Matrix. If you look at the way the warfare is going on in Russia and Ukraine, it's a techno hellscape. It's just drone. Like a drone arms race.
Yeah, no, and the drones are scary, dude, because they're
Terrifying.
fast.
Yeah.
And the only time you see like a Ukrainian or a Russian soldier kind of get away from a drone is when it's just like one drone.
Yeah.
But they don't it's not just like single drones. They have swarms. And then
Yeah.
now you have the AI powered ones that are even better at
Jesus.
flying than people. It's like, dude, that's like the next level of where things are getting.
It's so scary.
And it's just like, bro,
We're not
that's
ready
just
for
something
that.
I don't want to fuck with that. And then you have biological or biochemical weapons,
Yeah.
all these different things. Like somebody who's an expert with AI talked about how there's a possibility in the future where AI will just want to kill everybody.
Yeah,
And they
well,
said
the
the best
Terminator.
way it would do that is it would just use AI-powered drones to just set off biochemical weapons. So even if you were to escape into the woods or whatever, well,
Yeah.
it's going to send a plague over there or some like fungus, like tree-eating disease or some shit. And it's just like, it could be whatever. But I just don't want to get to the point of collapse. And so
No.
that's kind of the tricky wire balancing act we kind of have to do is we have to push for America First values, but so much of our system is set up in a way to kind of prolong the machine, like the
Yeah.
Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
So you have to be tactical with how you do that. Otherwise, a lot of people are going to die.
That I thought was probably the most profound insight that I got from Fuentes' criticism or like rejection of Trump's administration was that he validates the system, that he buys it time, where it's not this it's not America First agenda, it's not Doge, it's not gutting it and disrupting the monster and draining the swamp. It's just buying it to most of the normies, I have friends and stuff that are still like MAGA people. They don't pay attention though. Like they don't know, they don't see the day to day. They don't see how bad it's going, and it's like, yeah, like that's for those people. It's buying them more time. Be like, oh, I'm a Republican, Trump, like whatever. Like if something giant catastrophic doesn't happen, they'll just think it was a success because it was their guy. And I was like, man, that is sharp insight. Because that's what's happened. I mean, think about the excitement just a year ago. How pumped everyone was, how much we were going to get the country back.
Yeah.
We're so back, all that. It was Rogan and it was, what's his name, doing the Trump dance, John Jones, and just football players doing it. And everyone's like, finally, we got through the madness and we stuck the landing. We crossed over the end zone and that was close. But we saved America, don't worry. And it's just like every day you're just like, oh, my God, this is not happening. Like,
Yeah. I mean, I was on the same boat. Like, I was pretty. That's one of the reasons why I kind of like didn't like Nick last year, because I was watching him and listening to him, but up until last year he started saying don't vote for Trump, and I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck is he talking about? Fuck him. And I was hardcore Trump, and then as soon as the administration started, I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
And the reason why his insight is so good, and this is one of the things I really like about him, is he does have like a very like he's a visionary with this stuff, but really all he does is just read.
Right.
Him and like Alex Jones and all these people, all they
Dave
do
Smith,
is
Scott Horton, Darryl
all they
Cooper.
do is read.
Yeah.
They read what the Israeli people write. They pay attention to the donors and the money. That's all they do. And once you start doing that, because I started like looking at the websites that he uses, because he'll shout them out, and it's like, all right, I should check that, like anti-war and all those
Great
sites.
resource.
I'm gonna check these out. I'm gonna actually pay attention, and that's gonna make me better at talking about these things for my own content. But
That's why I pulled that article from the Washington Post, because Nick says he reads the Washington Post. I'm like, well, if it's good enough for Nick, I might as well read it. That guy's got more political insight than anyone I'm aware of.
yeah, because even if it's not the whole story, you're still getting something. And
Right.
if you read the actual article, more often than not, it's usually a different story than just the tagline or the headline for the article. Like most people, that's all they do is read the headline and they think they know everything. And it's like, no, they don't even talk about that shit sometimes. Like it'll be completely different in the actual article, like the writing. And it's because we don't pay attention. You know.
I mean, we're also, in defense of normies a little bit, I think this is something that Ricky Gervais said years ago, where he was talking about people doing that, just reading the headlines. And I was like, well, yeah, that's probably true, but let's just say I go to the Washington Post. I'm not literally reading every single article. Like, that's great. I don't have all day to read the paper. But so I'll read whatever I read. But then your brain just scans and reads like automatically without you doing it. Like it just reads the words of the headline. So whether or not you consciously choose to accept that as fact, it just gets implanted in your brain.
Yeah.
And so there is like a latent ability, like a latent kind of psyop, but it happens. And it's just like, there's really no avoiding that. Like that's, you have to try to be as informed as you can be, but it is hard, man. I mean, that stuff just gets, right in there.
Yeah. And most people, they don't have time. Like,
right. They don't.
I mean, I don't have like a wife or kids or anything like that. And I'm a little older for a Gen Z guy compared to other people. Yeah. I mean, most guys my age don't have wife and kids anyways, but it's like, I understand it's people don't have time for this shit. And that's part of the, the problem. Cause that's like the game, is that the majority of people believe what they're told. And it's because they're so busy, they just don't have the time. Like their priorities are their kids. Like, can I go to my kid's baseball game? Can I, go to my daughter's recital? Whatever. Like that's their
I got
priority.
Tea time with my friends.
Yeah, like
that's my
I have a
one-time
life.
way,
Like the people who are super into this shit, they don't have lives. It's just politics. And I mean, yeah, that's fair. So that's the problem. But then you realize all the politicians that you thought were for you and for fighting for you and all this, they're not, And,
they're not. It's a shame. I mean, and you see what happens, with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Like, I didn't know much about her other than she was like the wacky lady. And I know Nick's thoughts on her. But I saw her on Tim Dillon's podcast, and I was like, oh, shit, this girl's pretty based. Like, I kind of like her. I even made a few videos about her maybe being like the future. And then that was before, Trump basically kicked her out or whatever happened with her. But it was like, you see what happens with someone who like stands for the president, but then kind of stands on business about the things that she cares about. And you're like, oh, wow, these people actually, there isn't this kind of loyalty. There isn't this sort of principled fight to get us back. It's just kind of like, oh, no, this is something else.
Yeah. And I mean, it's what Trump did to her was a big wake-up call to a lot of people, even like a lot of normies, because she's been MAGA since like day one.
Yeah.
And he's essentially stabbing her in the back for people who hated him when he started getting into politics. Yeah. So that's where you kind of see it. And I mean, I feel like Trump, his biggest downfall is the fact that he just is from an older generation. He still cares about what the media says.
I know.
He still cares about like the wrong things that don't really matter.
Yeah.
And the people that he surrounds himself with, they're just horrible. And
I don't, as much as I'm disappointed, like I am empathetic to a degree. Like I couldn't imagine being the president at my age, and I'm like half his age. Like I couldn't imagine like it never stops. There's no moment where you get like peace. I don't even know how he plays golf every day. If he still does it. But I mean, like, you have to make all these decisions. You need to be informed about this stuff. You have to have opinions. You have to make policy. You got to do, and you got to push, and you got to fight, and you got to do that every single day. There is no day off. And it's like, eventually, you might just get tired and have to kind of outsource some of this, like, some of your thinking to the people around you. And if you don't pick them well, it's like, well, that's how we end up with fucking, like, war in Venezuela or whatever the hell we're up to now. Where it's just, I don't know. I'm trying not to black pill. I'm really trying not to black pill, and I want to, I want to maintain optimism, and I want Nick to be wrong, but I'm just not sure. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, but even at this point, if he gets something wrong, he's been right about so much other shit. So it's like, even if he gets things wrong, like, I don't care. Like, half of the other people that are his opposition, they get shit wrong all the time.
Oh, I don't want him to be wrong to spite him. I'm a fan. I like Nick. I watch every day. But I just, like, I want him to be wrong because I don't want that to be the case. Like,
yeah,
I want
You're
this
like, I don't want this to be reality.
Yeah. No, I can't believe the fact of how I've, like, flipped on that guy. Like, I went, just a few months ago, like, who, the fucking gay kid who blew Destiny or whatever, to, like, this guy's the future. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. But I mean, it is hard to kind of black pill. I'm pretty against black pilling and, like, being a doomer.
Yeah, it's good.
And a lot of people, they ask me, like, a lot. Like, I get a lot of messages, and they're like, oh, how do you not black pill? And it's like, well, it's hard.
Yeah.
But the reason why I don't do it is because you have to just think about it from the perspective of, like, look, shit's pretty bad now, and arguably it's going to get worse before it gets better. I don't think anybody could, tell you otherwise at this point. But, like, your ancestors have lived through periods of history where it was even more fucked up and worse, and they made it. So it's like, the way I kind of view all of this is like, well, maybe I won't get everything I want.
Right.
Maybe we won't achieve every single goal, but the fact that we're even having these conversations is a light at the end of the tunnel. It's a light in the darkness, and that matters. And I feel like focusing on that and not giving up on the fight is all that's what's going to get us there eventually. And I tell people all the time, it's like, hey, like, there's a chance this might be the rest of our lives. Like, we might not win until it's your grandkids.
Yeah.
Because this is something that's generational. This didn't just start 2 decades ago. This has been going on for hundreds of years.
That's a good thought. I never really considered
so it's
that,
like,
but that's wise.
You gotta think about it in the terms of the big picture, because that's what your enemies are doing.
Yeah.
And they don't view things by 4-year terms. And that's the problem with Americans.
Right.
We see everything so short term, and that's why we can't get anything done, because we don't think of the big picture.
Well, that's why I like, I think Nick is good, but I just imagine, like, I was, like, praising him to, like, my mom the other night, but I was just like, then I watched, like, the next episode, and I'm like, there's no way she couldn't watch this. Like, it's just, it's because he's just abrasive, and, he's hilarious, but it's like, not a mom's sensibility, not a boomer mom, certainly. But that's why I do really like the Libertarians. That's why I listen to a lot of Scott Horton and a lot of Dave Smith, because I feel their critique of government in general, I feel, is very insightful. When they talk about those kind of bureaucrats that are there for administration after administration, and you see it from that perspective. They're like, oh, this is a game to them. They're going to, like, shuffle their feet under the guy they don't like, and then they're going to get all the shit they want done under the next guy, and they're not going anywhere. And you're like, oh, that's who's really running this country. That's the real power. That's the real, that's the swamp. But it's like, when you listen to them talk about it, because they've been obsessed about this for years, how insightful they are. I think their critiques and their observations, I think, are really valuable. Also to normies, to, like, uniparty normies, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's always got to be a gateway into this stuff. So,
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people got into Nick because of, like, his clips
Yeah.
going viral. And, I mean, yeah, they're pretty, like, crazy, but people just think they're funny. And
They
then
are
start paying
hilarious,
attention.
dude.
Yeah, he's fucking hilarious.
When I put out my video, sorry to interrupt you, but when I put out my video about Nick, my friend, this guy Vigilante Williamson, who I used to do a weekly podcast with, he's like, I don't know anything about him because he's like out of politics now, but he's like, but he's hilarious, and he sent me these edits, and they were so fucking funny, dude. It was like, I forgot the one, but I just remember the second one was just like, I'm just saying, women need to shut up.
I'm just saying women need to shut up. Like that's honestly my position. It's like, get married, but women, shut up. I think anyone can agree women need to be told that. It's not like you can never talk again, but like women are talking too much now. Like it's enough already. Women are talking way too much. They're making faces. They're acting like bitches, and it's like they just need to shut up.
Yeah.
And that was like and everything goes on this little rant, but it was such a funny way to start an edit. I was like, oh, that's hilarious. Oh, this guy rules. But
Yeah, no, but like but it's gonna take a lot of different people. Like it's not just gonna be America First, like Reupers.
Right.
It's gonna be people like Dave Smith.
Yeah.
It's gonna be because like they'll have conversations with Nick. You
Right.
know, they
Yes.
like each other,
Yeah.
and so we don't all have to think the exact same, and that's a problem I've noticed with certain people on our side. They think the only way we're gonna win is if we all think the exact same
Right.
and we're all extremists
Yeah.
to that degree. And it's like, well, no, you're gonna isolate yourself by doing that, and
Yeah.
you're not gonna win anything. Like we want to win. Like that's what I want
Right.
to do.
Yeah.
I don't need everybody to be 100% like me completely. There's certain
No, and
things.
that's probably unhealthy.
Yeah, no, it's like hive mind.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't need. I mean, there's certain things I'm not going to nudge on. Like I think like Jewish oligarchs
Right.
in America, that's probably something I'm not going to budge on. That needs to be handled.
I don't really see the alternative, It's
Yeah, like you can't. Like if it's
if
one
there
of the
was
main
like maybe like a
causes.
benevolent faction amongst them, but it seems like they're pretty unified on their goals.
Yeah, I mean, they come out and they say it. They're counting down the days that white people become a minority in the West.
Yeah, they're pumped.
And
about it.
it's like funny to them.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
So it's like, no, like fuck you guys. Like you guys had chances. Now we don't give a shit about your little Holly, and we're coming after you.
Yeah.
Respectively, not like in a violent.
not like in a violent way. But
Yeah,
in
of
a
course.
way which
That's
we're
not
onto you.
happening.
Like it's the cat's out of the bag, the toothpaste out of the tube. I mean, there is no unseeing this. And like I said, it's a universal thing. It's left and right. It's even my boomer parents. Because they're not Fox News boomers. They're like liberal boomers. So they like, even they are like, I remember my dad was telling my dad, he's like, Jesus, it's a little much with the Gaza thing, huh? Like even there, like out of the whole thing. I was like trying to red pill my mom the other night. It was pretty funny. I was like going through the whole thing, and I'm like, okay, so in 1912,
Man.
like going through the whole thing. But I have a boomer ass question for you if you can answer it, because I have not been able to get to the bottom of this, and now I feel like the old man, like, hello, fellow Groypers. But what is the origin of the word Groyper?
That comes. I think that became like a thing in 2017 or no 2019 or 2018. It's just it was like a meme, like Pepe the Frog.
Yeah, sure.
It was like those were already existing things.
Yeah. No, I knew
before
that.
Nick adopted it. I don't know where Groyper actually like came
Okay,
from,
it's
but it's
still
the
just
fat. It's like the fat like green frog.
Okay.
There's different like it's not Pepe. There's another character, and that's what he was called, and they just started calling themselves that.
Okay.
Because they were a little bit more like trolls back in the day. They were
Sure.
serious, but they were more antagonistic, and that was just what they called them because they thought it was funny.
Well, I remember when that came out, because I was very into meme culture, and meme culture in the 2010s was huge. And so, like, I remember they were like, oh, this is alt-right Pepe the Frog. And I was like, these idiots, God, they don't know anything. Like, that isn't some alt-right symbol. It's just a fat fucking frog. And then it was like, now I see, it's like, oh, they kind of adopted it as their symbol. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, that makes more sense. But they were still wrong.
Yeah, but I don't know where like the actual name and the who made the
etymology.
frog, but they didn't make it though. They kind of just adopted it.
Okay. Yeah, that's one of those, like, things I haven't been able to get to the bottom of. Do I still have you for a few minutes, Tom?
Yeah, no, dude, I'm good.
Cool, brother. So I kind of wanted to ask, because, my journey's been like a really interesting one. Like I basically, my rabbit hole started with Star Wars, essentially. You know, like I was listening to on Nerdporial's channel the other night talking about Star Wars, and like I was a huge Star Wars fan. I still love the original trilogy. I mean, these two, like I have the Millennium Falcon right here and a AT-AT, and I'm like, I'm not a soy jack, you know what I mean? But I just grew up loving them, you know? And so once all the media started to get gay and woke and all this stuff, I started to listen to like Nerdrotic. I was telling you about that guy Mahler who does those really long form critiques of things, and this that whole kind of critical drinker, that whole side of the internet. Like I was like, this is fascinating. These guys they see the same thing I see, you know, because I was like in Hollywood, I'm reading these scripts, I'm like, oh Jesus Christ, you know, this is all so woke and political, and you know, I'm the white guy, and I was there in like 2016, you know what I mean? Like I was,
bro.
yeah, it was like during the apocalypse essentially, you know. It was like good luck getting work, ain't happening. But anyway, so that started like my journey, and then in fact, kind of the next level I think would be like James Lindsay. I read his book, Cynical Theories, and it was all about the activist scholarship in the colleges and the critical theory concept. And look, you know, James Lindsay is a total clod who's completely destroyed his credibility, but that's a good book. Like it's a really, if you want to understand, not that I feel like that's like old news now, but if someone didn't understand how all this woke stuff started, it's like that is the blueprint. That explains how it all began, you know, what different schools and how it got taught, and how all these different departments got like infested with all this stuff. So I just kind of kept going, you know, step by step. And now I consider myself like a politically minded person. Like that's the content that I consume. You know, I'm a big comedy podcast guy, but I basically I almost kind of skip them now because I want to get to like the real shit. I want to tell what's the news, what's the news story. So listening to Dave Smith, listening to his podcast had a big influence on, especially kind of like red pilling on Israel, because there were a few things he said that I was listening to where he was talking about the Zionists in the 1800s, and I was like, the what now? You know, because I only understood like the boomer story, which was like after World War II, you know, they almost got wiped out. The Jews almost got wiped out. So we gave them Israel as kind of like recompense. Like that was like the story I got. And then you were like, wait, there were Zionists in the 1800s? Like, what are you talking about? And then and then there was like a few other things where it was like the size of Israel kept growing and Palestine kept shrinking, and the back and forths, and then the thing that really got me was the clean break memo, and basically the fact that we fought the Iraq war for Israel's benefit. That flattened me because I just never had heard that argued. And then when I listened to Dave Smith and Scott Horton, and they walk you through it, and it's like it's clear as day. You can't see anything else. And I graduated high school in 2003. I was going to join the Marine Corps. It didn't work out. Like my you know, the timing was different, and I admitted to smoking weed during the Bush era, and that was just not happening. But I mean, I was that close to like going, and I have friends that went, and it was like all that for Israel, like that thing that not destroyed a generation, but like, man, there's so many victims of that war in this country, and it was for them. It was for that country. Like that was my big red pill moment where I was just like a switch flipped, and now I have a completely different perspective on this. I was curious about yours. I was curious about like your journey on all this.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's, yeah, all that stuff it's just crazy when you do like find out that it's essentially we were just used, and it's pretty it's just insulting, you know?
Yeah.
But
insulting
with me,
is, yeah, I mean, it's
that's
it's like slaves.
It's
like a slave army.
We sent our kids to die, and the ones that didn't die, more often than not, got fucked up mentally, and we didn't benefit
got
anything.
Severe PTSD,
you know?
from it. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's not even a joke. Like the people who really have that, I have some family members, and it's not fun.
No.
But with me, like personally, like I think around, I didn't give a shit about politics when I was younger. And when I mean younger, I mean like 14, or I guess around freshman in high school. I was just like a skater kid. I did drugs, and like I was just into like girls and all that shit. And I mean, I still kind of was for like a very long time, but I got into politics in 2015 when Trump started running. Before he got the nomination and all these different things. That's what kind of like motivated me to pay attention. But back then I was only really interested in like the drama
Yeah,
I wasn't paying I wasn't paying attention to the actual things that were going on like I do now, but I was interested, and I feel like most people were. That was a crazy year. 2016 was so unreal.
They
And
were
election
playing
night.
Oh my god,
Dude.
election night was crazy. But
I remember exactly where I was. Everything.
Yeah, me too. No, me too. But I just remember the clips. Like someone was playing a clip of Trump from that run, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm getting boos from this whole room because these are all the donors. These are all the donors in here. I'm not talking to the donors. I'm talking to the people." And I was like, "Whoa, where is this guy?
Bro.
I missed that guy."
Dude, yeah, no, it was like unreal, and everybody was trying to gaslight you into thinking Hillary was gonna win. 99% chance she's gonna win. They already have her for Time Magazine Person of the Year, all that shit, and it's like, get the fuck out of here. But 2016 was the first year I could vote. That's when I turned 18.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so I was pretty invested, and I was also super into, funny enough, Alex Jones. So that same year, I started getting into Alex Jones. I started getting super heavy into Pizzagate, which I don't know if you paid attention to WikiLeaks and
a little.
Pizzagate. That whole thing was weird, and a lot of it, in some ways, was exaggerated. But the crazy thing is, most of it wasn't.
Interesting.
Even to this day,
I never looked into it. I remember hearing about it at the time, but I wasn't super political either. I was a closet Trump supporter, and I didn't even realize I was a Trump supporter until he won, like you were saying, election night. And I just opened up my Facebook feed, and every woke feminist who accused me of mansplaining, every obnoxious political person I knew was melting down. And I was like, yo, this is the greatest day ever.
Yeah, dude. It was the first taste of real victory, because it was a victory. It was a victory, huge. And it was the crazy thing about that, he wasn't supposed to win.
No.
That was, so it is proof that the people can win and the populism can win. So it's kind of a white pilling experience, but it was crazy. But the WikiLeaks with Hillary's emails, John Podesta, all this stuff that's going around. I paid attention to literally all of that. And I mean, I still remember the pictures of the dude who owned Comet Pizza, the pictures he had of little girls on his Instagram. That shit was fucking disgusting.
Yeah, I think I remember that. I remember the details of that, and there was, it was always, because we didn't have Twitter then, so the information couldn't get passed around. Well, we had Twitter, but not really. But it's the information couldn't get passed around kind of openly like it is now. And I remember, and back then I feel like it was tougher to understand transparency. It was tougher to know who was telling the truth and who wasn't. Everything was murky, and the establishment still had a lot of power. So I feel like I'd catch glimpses of it, but I never really dove into the story, because it was I don't know what to believe with any of this,
Yeah, no, because it's so new, because you're not used to it, and it's you don't know who to trust.
Yeah.
But that was my first introduction to politics. It was pretty radical. It wasn't just traditional boomer politics. It's Pizzagate, following the story.
Yeah.
I remember that one actor who he was super I forget his name, but he was super outspoken about all these parties and all these politicians. He posted a video of him at this mansion event, and there's these little girls there. It was disgusting, dude.
I don't know that one.
I'll have to find out his name, because it's a crazy story. But this dude was super big on talking about the pedophile rings in Hollywood and in politics. And eventually,
not Corey. Corey, was it Corey?
He's is that his name? Is the dude who ended up committing, killing himself by the bridge, but he wasn't suicidal.
Oh,
you remember that?
That's right.
He had a video that he leaked, and it was crazy shit. So that shit's
that got memory
etched in my brain.
I remember that now.
And so that's why when Jeffrey Epstein and all this stuff started happening under Trump, it was pretty big for me, because it's this all coincides with what all that stuff was. This all connects.
Yeah.
And then, that he got killed, and that was a big thing, and the files got buried, and then Trump is running for 2020, and then COVID happens, and I think COVID for me politically just kind of showed how I mean, I used to have like this idea with like these stories I was told with like the Bible and with the future when I was younger, with like the Antichrist is going to come and he's going to take over the world, and everyone's going to follow him, and everyone's going to betray the Christians and hunt people down. And I always had this idea in my head. It's like people wouldn't do that. Like most people aren't going to sell out their neighbors or do any of these things. And then with COVID happening, I was like, holy shit, people will do that. And I don't know if they would do it again on the same level, because I feel like most people know that a lot of the shit that happened during COVID was bullshit, but it's the fact that it worked so easily.
I mean, there's still people. I argue about this online sometimes, like there's a website I like to go on called 9gag. I don't really spend as much time on there anymore now that Twitter's free, but for a while, 9gag was kind of one of the only places I could go where it was like truly free speech. And, I would argue with the Europeans a lot and about the vaccine stuff, and they're still like, no, it was the right thing to do. It was still good. And you're like, the level of cookery, the level of brains just being roasted by that propaganda is mind-blowing. And, you get that Moderna article that comes, or the article about Moderna that came out the other day about how it's like, yeah, no, there were heart failures and there were problems with this stuff. And it's like, where are the universal, like, begging for forgiveness, apologies from these people who are pushing that? And I don't even mean the politicians, because obviously they have a slimy agenda. I mean the citizens who went along with it, like who shamed us and closed businesses and did all these horrible things and ratted out their friends and family and neighbors. Like, where are their apologies? Where are their desperate, begging for their forgiveness from us?
Yeah, I mean, they don't care. Like
No.
It's just kind of shows you like how modern Western society functions. It's like people will kind of drink the Kool-Aid to a certain degree. I feel like if something like that happened again, it would have to be a little bit different. I feel like most people wouldn't be okay with it now. But also at the same time, I don't really know. Like, I feel like a lot of people are just kind of full of shit, and they're just all talk. They're like, oh, if this happens again, we'll go to the streets and we'll start using our Second Amendment and our guns. And it's like, I don't honestly believe it's going to be most of y'all.
No.
I feel like a lot of you are just going to be like, oh, I have a job and I have kids, and so that's kind of the predicament we're in. And so you have that, and during the Biden years, I was kind of a little checked out from politics, but also at the same time I wasn't. It was very like half baked for me, but I was getting radicalized a lot with just adult life. Like, I'm getting jobs. Like, I got a job I had like a corporate office job where I was like one of the only dudes that was like under the age of 30. Like, most guys working there were like 35 plus, and I was like one of the younger guys working here, and there was a lot of college girls that worked there, and this is when they started pushing the vaccine, and it was like, they were heavily like, hey, you should get this. Hey, you should get this. We're having a drive. Get this. And so, like, I mean, I left that job, but I had a brother who was in the military at the time, and he was fixing to get out. He was coming up on his 4 years, and he basically was, like, being told, hey, if you don't get the vaccine, we're going to dishonorably discharge you.
Wow.
Yeah, that was basically what it was coming from. And that's why Trump, when he got elected, he said, we're going to do back pay for all the people that got affected and all these, because that was a big issue for them.
Yeah.
And my brother,
he did something with that the other day.
Yeah, no, but he tried doing like, my brother tried doing like the religious exemption. That didn't work. They didn't care about it. Like, it was super stressful for him.
That was totalitarianism. I mean, there's really no other way to look at it.
Yeah, no, 100%. 100%. And the federal workers that had to force, they had to get it and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And
no,
it's
I had a friend that she traveled for work and had to. She would go on military bases for her job, and she had to do it. Like, didn't want to, and then she got like a booster, and she said that like her lymph nodes swell up, and she's like, I'm not doing this again. I don't care. You can fire me, because we're force medicated, millions of people.
Yeah, no, and funny enough about the boosters, one of the first videos I did when I started my channel up this year was I did a video based off this study that came out from all these doctors and scientists in Japan, and they did a study testing like the booster shots, and essentially their data basically confirmed that the more booster shots you get, the more likely you're gonna die.
Wow, Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
It's crazy, but that, like, yeah, it's like totalitarian 100%, and that radicalized me in a lot of ways. And it radicalized me with like women, because I wasn't like a Christian, and I was pretty big into just kind of messing around, sleeping around, just like dating a bunch of women I should not have been messing with.
I've been there.
And I had fun. I mean, I'm not gonna say I didn't have fun. I did, but like just hearing like the way they would talk about stuff, because I would never talk about politics with girls, because they're always like liberals.
Oh, it's impossible, man.
But dude,
I don't
hearing
know
the
where you
shit,
live, but-
yeah, dude, like hearing the shit they talk about. Like one girl I dated in 2019, she volunteered for like Hillary's campaign in New York. In New York. So when she found out I voted for Trump, she blocked me for like 3 weeks, and then she came around, and then she wanted to hang out again. But
oh wow, that's good.
Because I'm so much fun. You know, it's like I'm not one of these liberal like cuck dudes that you know.
Oh, I had a few dates that just blew up. You know what I mean? Just like relationship girls. It's like, well, you know, they feel you out, and they try to find, you know, and I would, you know, you kind of like, I lived in LA, you know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
dude,
it's
that's
brutal.
crazy.
So you kind of had to like dance around it, you know. Oh, I'm not all that political, or I'm a libertarian, you know, which they don't really know what that means. So it's kind of elusive. But yeah, no, dating women that'll red pill you fast, because it's just like all these chicks, they all have the exact same opinions, and they're all like so vehement about it, and they'll cut you off, and it's insane, man. It's like, I don't know, but I actually do have to start wrapping up, because I got some plans for the evening, my friend. But I want to say this was great, dude.
Yeah, no, this was a lot of fun. I would be definitely interested in having more conversations going forward.
Yeah. No, same, man. Like, I'd love to have you back. This was awesome. This was so interesting. So, and for those of you who don't know, Tom Foe, like I said, up and coming. I mean, you started like this year, right?
I did a few months ago.
And you got like what, 12,000 subs or something?
I do, yeah. I'm surprised so many people are listening to me yell.
Yeah, dude. I mean, you're doing great. So go be, you know, the 13,000th. And go check out Tom's stuff. He's really good, very relevant stuff, like always uploading. I like it a lot. I like your insight, and it's a lot of personality. You know, I think obviously there's a million shades of YouTuber out there, and there's like dudes who just kind of do facts and just sort of do like information. But like I feel like Tom, it's like you're really getting what he thinks. You're really getting like the inside of his head, and I think it's great content. So go check out his stuff. And yeah, Tom, this was fantastic, brother.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Fuck yeah, man. All right, guys. Well, see you on the next episode of the MFer Podcast. Subscribe to Tom, all that good shit, and see you later.
See ya.